This is a story about my biggest secret, my biggest mess that became my biggest gift. So I got diagnosed with psoriasis on my penis. I felt like it was my fault. I made a massive mistake. I was able to do what dozens of doctors that I looked up to told me was impossible. But so specifically, how was I able to heal my psoriasis? First, this is a story about my biggest secret. This ultimately led to me discovering who I really am and what my role is here on Earth in this incarnation. And it's a story about my greatest weakness, my biggest mess that became my biggest gift and my greatest strength. It's my pain to purpose story. So here we go. I've never told this story. I mean, obviously, this is the first episode of my podcast, so I haven't told any stories on my podcast, but I just wanted to go straight with this one. So it all started freshman year of college. I fell in love with a girl on my dorm room floor, and unfortunately, it just did not go well. It was also around that time that I started smoking weed. So here I am living alone, 18 years old, and I got mad at her for something super silly. I don't even know what it was. When I confronted her about it really angrily, instead of her apologizing, she just gave me the cold shoulder. The next thing I know, I'm in my dorm room and I hear a knock on my door, and I look out the peephole and she's making out with another guy from the dorm room floor, leaning on my door. Crazy. I thought, what if I hadn't been upset at her? What if I hadn't said that? What if I had just let it go? I just had all these what ifs, and I just started going to all these concerts by myself, the music that she introduced me to. And looking back, I now know that I was depressed. I didn't know at the time. I felt like it was my fault. I made a massive mistake. It was really rough. And completely unrelated to that, that's the backstory. Completely unrelated to that, when I started college, I got a rash on my penis. I went to the university doctor and I'm super embarrassed. I'm like, what is this? And they said it was psoriasis. So I got diagnosed with psoriasis on my penis. And if you don't know what psoriasis is an autoimmune condition that Western doctors don't have a cure for. And I ended up going from dermatologist to dermatologist who told me to take this cortisone cream. And then the other dermatologist would be like, why are you taking that one? You should be taking this cream. But we can't do anything about it. We don't know what causes it. We don't know how to heal it. All you really can do is take this cream. So over the next 5 years, I lived with this rash on my penis. I thought maybe people would think it was an STD. Maybe people would think there was something wrong with me. I thought there was something wrong. If there's no reason that it could start, why did this happen? I felt super confused and isolated. I couldn't talk about it with anybody. And I thought that that was what the rest of my life was going to be, and that I was going to have this shameful thing that I needed to hide, surrounded by this lifestyle that I'd been looking forward to my whole life, where finally I get to be an adult and be with women and just do the whole college thing that I'd been so excited about. And then my entire college, I really couldn't, because the cream didn't really work. And all the authority figures in my life told me this was what I was going to need to live with, that there was no cure. And that was my college experience in a nutshell. The doctors were right. It didn't go away. And I spent 5 years just living in this inner turmoil. It felt like a death sentence. And then things started to change right after college. I serendipitously went to visit this Tai Chi teacher. I was very interested in this specific type of Tai Chi called Chi Gong. And this Chi Gong teacher introduced me to some of the Eastern methods of healing. And as we were doing the Chi Gong energy work, he told me he was also a clinical hypnotherapist. I didn't know what that was, but clinical hypnotherapy is very different than stage hypnosis, where a magician puts someone to sleep or makes them call themselves a duck or something. Clinical hypnotherapy is where you go into a meditative state and you access the subconscious mind. And that's where a lot of our unconscious patterns are, our belief systems, our mindset, our network of emotions and feelings and thought processes. And you can't access that from the conscious mind. You need to get into a meditative state when you're suggestible, which is what hypnosis is. It's like a low-grade trance state. And once you're in that meditative state, that's where you can release these patterns, release trauma. This is all stuff he was explaining to me, and I started doing this work with him. And long story short, through that hypnotherapy work, the miraculous happened. And my psoriasis on my penis went away. And since then, I've been completely symptom-free for 15 years. I went from being this uncomfortable teenage kid who could not experience intimacy, physically could not experience intimacy, to being able to feel confident in my body again with my manhood and able to be intimate with women. And now here I am in a happy relationship 7 years running. And I'm married, and now we're working on starting a family. So all those doctors, all those dermatologists were wrong. All the Western doctors that said that you cannot cure autoimmune conditions, that you couldn't get rid of psoriasis, that you just have to put the cream, they were all wrong. And this is what I discovered when I was 23 years old working with this guy. I was able to do what dozens of doctors, authority figures that I looked up to, told me was impossible. And my hypnotherapist, his name was Jim, he helped me understand that there is a psychological, emotional, and spiritual component to diseases and disorders. Whereas Western allopathic medicine see us as machines. It's like your body is a car. You just gotta cut something out. You gotta medicate it. You know, the way that they think about it is purely physical. It's purely the mechanical. And Western medicine is really good at that. It's really good when you need surgery. It's really good to put broken bones together. But it completely dismisses or omits the emotional and the psychological and the spiritual components to disease and to trauma. This experience completely changed my life. It completely changed the trajectory of my life because I started asking myself, okay, what else have I been told that's impossible that is actually possible with my body, with my mind? What other authority figures are wrong? If these doctors are wrong about me healing my psoriasis, what else are they wrong about? And what else can I do that people have told me that I couldn't do? If I could use hypnotherapy to heal something physically in my body that I've been dealing with for 5 or more years, what else could I do in these states? What other anxieties, fears, or ailments that I was struggling with or other people are struggling with could they overcome? So I saw Jim, my clinical hypnotherapist, every single week for 13 years, starting when I was 22 years old. And he went from being my therapist to being my mentor. He guided me through this whole new understanding of how the body actually works. Because the truth is, we as humans, we have 3 main components. We are mind, we are body, and we are spirit. And so we need to take into account all 3 of those aspects. And going to Duke, which is where I went to college, I was pre-med. And so I was on the doctor track. I was going to be a PhD doctor. I was doing neuroscience research, and I had been doing cancer research up until that point. And so this completely veered me off my conventional, parental approved path of success to be like, wait a second, maybe this is not all it's cracked up to be. Maybe there's something deeper that is more fascinating to me. But so specifically, how did it work? How was I able to heal my psoriasis? First, what we would do is we would go into a meditative state. By accessing the subconscious mind using hypnotherapy, I was able to, in short, heal the trauma from the breakup. And I didn't even know at the time that the psoriasis had anything to do with that breakup, that heartbreak, freshman year of college. But my body, I learned, had been protecting me all of this time. Because that experience was so painful, because I had opened my heart, I was in this very vulnerable, whole new world as an adult. I was also using these hypnotic suggestibles from the weed, which aggravated or exacerbated the emotional wounding from the rejection. That was so painful for me that my body didn't want me to experience that pain again. So it decided to protect me. What aspect of my mind was actually protecting me, I'm going to get into in the future episode, but it was trying to keep me safe. It was trying to protect me from being hurt again. And the way that it did that was not necessarily in the best way, but it was in a way that it knew how. And it created this rash on my penis that protected me from ever being put in a situation where I would be intimate and vulnerable and opening my heart to the point where I could be hurt again. And I mean, that was a massive breakthrough to understand that, to be able to tie an emotional trauma to a physical ailment. This is super common, by the way, and you've probably experienced something like this. There's a few different terms for it. It's commonly called body syndrome, conversion disorder, or psychosomatic is what they used to call it. But I was just converting all of this stress, all the anxiety, all the heartbreak into my body. And that was how it was protecting me. I feel like other great examples of this are, let's say you've got a job and your boss is an asshole and you don't like your boss. So every time you go to work, you get this bad headache and you get migraines, but then you leave work and you feel fine. So you wonder, oh, is there mold in my office? Am I eating poorly? Am I having too much coffee? No, it's the fact that you don't want to be working there anymore. Your boss sucks. You need to quit and you need to get a new job. That's another example of your body trying to help you in some way. And so after doing the healing work with my hypnotherapist, I processed a lot of those feelings that I'd been repressing, not confronting, avoiding. And so after healing that trauma, my body just no longer needed to protect me anymore. It was like I learned the message. It finally felt safe on an embodiment level to be intimate again. Of course, I wasn't at the time aware of any of this or how this worked. It was a huge aha moment. He helped me realize that they started at around the same time. So often when I work with people now, one key component is thinking, okay, if you have any ailment, disorder, or disease, you can ask, okay, when did this feeling first start? When was the first time I felt XYZ? When was the first time the rash started? When was the first time you got the headache? And that is going to tell you, you're going to be reminded of something you probably completely forgot, because it doesn't feel good to think about the root cause of trauma. But by processing that one memory, that one event, that's how you can unlock it. That's how you can heal it. I now know there are 3 vectors of disease and disorders. The first vector is physical, right? Let's say you have a hole in your heart or you have a broken bone. There's a mechanical issue that is the cause of a disease and disorder. And that's something that Western medicine is really good at helping people with. The second is environmental. You can get sick from viruses, bacteria, mold, heavy metals, all this stuff. A lot of people that suffer from ADHD, depression, OCD, they often find that they have parasites or heavy metals. There is often an environmental chemical component to psychological disorders. That's the second vector. But then the third is the psycho-spiritual, that emotional component, like emotional trauma, like some wound that you experienced when you were a kid. Out of those 3 vectors, they all are worth exploring. You want to take a look at all 3. But me personally, I feel like the emotional, psycho-spiritual component is the one that's most often missed. It's the one that you can't really get help with from that many conventional people. It's something you kind of have to go off the beaten path. Obviously, therapists, and there's a lot of modalities that help with the emotional, but really to get to the bottom of where a trauma started, that's the aspect that I love the most with my work that I do now. And so the Western world, they have 2 of those covered. They can help you understand if you've got a broken bone or an issue with your liver with an ultrasound. They can diagnose and use x-rays and CAT scans and blood tests and all that stuff, but they completely omit, they are missing this key component, the emotional, psychological, and spiritual aspect to life's biggest challenges. Since having my own healing experience and uncovering that there were actually methods out there like clinical hypnotherapy that can heal things that other authorities said are not possible, I started exploring all these other healing modalities. And since then, I've experienced so many other ways to heal on the emotional, mental, and spiritual levels. You've got Reiki, EMDR, ayahuasca, peyote, breathwork, holotropic breathwork. You've got various meditations, Joe Dispenza, NLP, theta healing, neurofeedback. You've got somatic therapy. There's so many different incredibly powerful modalities out there that I have since explored. It's incredible. And I've experienced all of them. And I'm like a guinea pig where I feel like I've tried everything. And what I noticed through working through my long list of ailments and inner obstacles, my negative self-talk, as well as other physical ailments, especially back issues, had a lot of lower back pain and herniated discs over the years, was that many of the best healing modalities that I experienced, the ones that made the biggest difference, they were the ones that brought me into a meditative state. I realized that it's the meditative state that is the key component to accelerate growth and healing, that we really do need to access the subconscious. That's like the consistent component to the things that actually have worked for me, and I feel like work for many people. Also, once I started to go through my long list of remedial things that were keeping me small and keeping me in this anxious, insecure, unfulfilled version of myself, I started to feel more confident, more purposeful, more whole, more alive. So I started using these meditative states, not just to work on solving problems, but actually to optimize, finesse, and actually improving quality of life that was already quite high. I just want to share that first you might be working on solving the bad shit, but then there's this whole other level once you've tackled most of those, to actually accelerating your spiritual awakening, connecting to your higher power, witnessing the future, connecting to your higher self. There's incredible amounts of insights and clarity that can come through these meditative states to live your fullest life. It's like you go from just trying to survive to actually thriving, and you can do both of those with these meditative states. And so I ask you, as you're listening to this, if any of this is resonating, if you're hearing a little bit of your story or your journey here, maybe there's something that you've been hiding that is your biggest struggle, the thing that you were ashamed about, or your core wound that maybe turned into an autoimmune disorder or turned into some form of addiction or avoidance. What are you struggling with? Where are you converting your stress and your unprocessed trauma into your body? Or maybe you find yourself sabotaging your success and you don't know why. In my case, the way that I was sabotaging my success was sabotaging my deep desire, my conscious desire to be intimate. My body was sabotaging that. So where is your body sabotaging what you really want? And are you using your subconscious mind to understand that better and to heal? Also, maybe you're about to make a really big presentation. Maybe you want to start a podcast. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to quit your job. Maybe you want to raise a bunch of money for your side hustle to become the next big thing. And you haven't been taking the aligned actions. You can go into a meditative state and come out of that feeling ready, feeling confident, and knowing exactly what the next step is. What's so great about having had all these experiences I've shared in this episode is that I've basically taken all the different healing modalities that I've experienced, the NLP, the theta healing, and the clinical hypnotherapy, and I've made it my own. And I now help other people every single day, these amazing, ambitious entrepreneurs, typically people who want to live a fuller life, who might be struggling with their own subconscious self-sabotage, their own unprocessed traumas from their childhood. And I help them with it by helping them go into a meditative state to heal at the deepest level. And I love it. It's incredible. Yeah, it's like I found my thing, and I needed to have that pain. I needed to have that horrible traumatic experience to go through this entire life trajectory over the last decades to be in this incredibly powerful position that I'm so proud to be in now, where everything that I experienced, all my trials and tribulations, all my lessons have become my blessings. They've become my greatest gift. And I call it superconscious healing, because not only are we going into a subconscious meditative state, I'm actually connecting to what I call the superconscious, which is basically this infinite loving guidance, this one source consciousness that is out there that we have access to. So while I bring the person into a meditative state to access the subconscious, we're also accessing the superconscious And it's from there I connect intuitively and we get to the bottom of that root trauma, the root memory. That's my favorite thing to do. And I just see incredible results every single day. It's really special. It's really powerful. And I know I'm like kind of selling what I actually do now, which is not the point. But the point is that as I look back, my biggest secret has become my greatest gift. My biggest trauma that left me feeling isolated and completely lost has become my greatest strength. What dilemma has been keeping you up at night that's preventing you from moving forward in the best way? What weed needs to be plucked spiritually with you because it doesn't need to anymore? My experience is unique perhaps, but it's not special. We all are experiencing these core wounds. You can heal it. If anybody is telling you that you have to live with something for the rest of your life, before you believe them, come experience the work that I've experienced, because everything is possible to heal with very few caveats. And I'm going to have a whole other episode on divine timing, which is maybe where there's exceptions to that rule. But anything that's limiting you, it doesn't have to anymore. You can let it go. You can heal, even if all the doctors in the world, even if your parents, family members, friends, teachers, spirit guides, even if they tell you you can't do something, you can be free. You can live a full life. And honestly, you can probably take whatever pain you're experiencing and transmute it into a gift, into an opportunity, a lesson, or a blessing that you can give the world. I mean, your pain is probably your greatest purpose as well. You might just not know it yet. No matter where you are on the healing journey, whether you're in the beginning and you're experiencing these incredible traumatic experiences, just trying to weather the storm of your life situation right now, or maybe you've come through the acute challenges and things just don't really make sense yet. You don't know why things happened or what it means. Or maybe you're in like one of the later phases where everything is coming full circle and you're starting to see with hindsight how all these things that feel like happened to you really happened for you and really were lessons to help you grow. Realize that, oh wow, pressure does make diamonds. I am a better person, or I have been able to rise to the challenge because of it. I hope that my story resonates with you, because you are not alone. Thank you so much for listening. That is my healing story. I invite you to follow along as I continue to share my journey of healing, and I get more specific about modalities, frameworks, tools, and techniques that have been most helpful for me, very specifically step by step. I'm going to be sharing the tools and the techniques that just keep showing up because they consistently create breakthroughs for people and have created massive breakthroughs for me. So if you enjoyed this experience, would just be so grateful if you'd give an honest review, comment, share it with people, follow my podcast on all platforms. You know what to do. Just engage with it. That's really what helps. Thank you so much for listening. So glad to be here with you. And let me know what you'd like to hear more of.